Devlog 16. Yes, I'm still making these. I finally fixed an issue I had been struggling with ever since the start of my game's development. The melee collision. It is arguably the most important part of my game because it is how the player will interact with most things such as enemies and objects. Every game has different ways of handling melee. It could be by adding different spheres or boxes onto a weapon and checking what it overlaps, or by casting a trace with a line or sphere and checking if it hit anything. I ran into the same issue whether I had used a simple collision or I was casting a trace. The root of the problem was the frame rate of the game. Since I was sticking to a very particular style or aesthetic, I decided early on to lock the game to 30 FPS. It was only a bit later that I realized that the collision system I had in place wasn't consistent because it was updating every frame. It's easy to see the problem when I turn on the debug collision for the sphere trace. So it would have trouble keeping track of any attack that was too fast because it was skipping or jumping frames. I tried different methods early on, from changing the collision channels, trying to make the collision check what it's hitting instead of overlapping. Suffice to say, none of it worked, and for a long time, I was content with it not hitting consistently. But the more I added more enemies with different weapons and attacks, the more irritating it was when attacks that should have hit weren't hitting. I finally decided to sit down and tackle the problem until I could solve it, no matter what. After a lot of searching, I finally found a video about creating a trace system that was similar to Chivalry. I'd seen it before, but I couldn't find a reliable source that could show me how to implement it easily. When I finally found a video from 8 years ago that looked pretty straightforward, I decided to try and replace my current system. After a lot of testing, I finally got it functioning. It works like this. When the trace starts, it records that position, then on the next update, it traces from the last known position to the new position. So it fills in those gaps. So even for fast attacks, it should fill in the empty spaces. Then, whatever it overlaps, it calls the damage function that deals with that whole mess. I adapted this to the functions I had, and I am able to add as many trace sockets on any weapons, so it's reusable no matter the size or shape of the weapon. The function simply checks the weapon for all sockets that contain the string trace socket. Then on all those sockets, it calls the trace during the attack. I am extremely satisfied that this works, and it feels good to have figured out how to make it dynamic for my own game.